So for today's video, what I want to talk about is how to count your calories. So what I mean by that is, how do you know how many calories you should eat in a day? How does exercise and activity play a role in that number? And just how to keep track of everything in general. I think that a lot of people don't count their calories because, one, all of those things can be really confusing, and two, it seems really tedious and just a lot of work, and people don't have time to do all that every single day. And so I am a firm believer in counting your calories. I'll explain why in a second. But basically for this video, I just want to break down everything to square one to how to start counting your calories, how to do it every day that's easy and simple. So before I get into the video, I just have a quick little disclaimer so I don't offend anyone. I just want to say, so after studying nutrition for the past 3.5 years, I've learned that there are so many different ways to get to where you want to be. Like, there are so many different nutrition plans, so many different exercise plans that you can do to get where you want to be. And so basically, I just don't want to, when I talk about counting calories, I don't want to come off to anyone that that's like exactly what you need to do. So like, you need to find something that works for you. You can weigh out the pros and cons, find a plan that works for you, and then see if it's sustainable, see if it's realistic for yourself. There's not just like one size fits all. There's not like one thing that everyone in the world needs to do to be fit or to reach their goals. And so personally for me, counting calories was that thing that helped me, but that doesn't mean that that's something that's going to help you. And so basically, if you're someone who doesn't count their calories, but you have your own thing going, you have your own routine going, and it's working for you, don't feel like I am telling you that you need to do that in order to be fit. This video is mostly for people who may be hard in the gym and is struggling with nutrition and you aren't seeing change. So basically for me, what happened with me is I was spending hours and hours in the gym every single day working so hard, and I thought I was eating healthy, but I wasn't seeing any change at all. And so for me, counting calories was the thing that I felt that I could live sustainably and it was realistic for me, and that's when I really started to see change. So the point of this video is just to help some people out who maybe are struggling with seeing progress, not necessarily for the people who already have their own thing going. So before I get into it, I just want to make that clear. I know that anything nutrition related can be very offensive to people, and so that's not how I want to come off. Why should you count your calories? So for me, there are many reasons why I think you should count your calories. I'm just going to explain them as brief as I can. First off, it just makes the most sense from a scientific standpoint. So a lot of diets that you see out there, a lot of fad diets that you see where people say like don't eat carbs or limit this or limit that, the whole sole purpose of that is to reduce the amount of calories you're eating. So basically how our bodies work, so in a normal functioning individual, it all goes by calories in and calories out. So fat loss is from calories in, calories out. If you're trying to maintain your weight and you eat the same calories every single day that your body burns off, you'll maintain your weight. If you eat less, you'll lose weight. If you eat more, you'll gain weight. That's just how it is scientifically. Obviously, yes, it matters when you eat protein, when you eat carbs, what you eat before or after a workout. Like, those proportions do matter. But in the end, when we're talking about solely fat loss, weight loss, it's calories in, calories out. And so the reason why I feel so strongly about this is I think a lot of people get just like misconceptions with this. So for me, for my personal experience, what it was is like, I know what healthy foods are. I know what foods are healthy. I know what foods like you should stay away from, that kind of stuff. But I didn't understand the concept of calories in, calories out. So I would eat salads every day, smoothies every day, like all the healthy stuff that you would think would be healthy, but I was eating more calories than I was burning off. So I was spending hours in the gym. I thought I was eating healthy, but I would get so frustrated because I'm like, why am I not seeing change? It doesn't make sense to me. So basically what it is like, if you're eating healthy foods and you're eating more calories than your body's burning off, you will gain weight. Just as, say you only eat a McDonald's cheeseburger every day, you're eating less calories than your body's burning off, you will lose weight. So that's why I don't like to directly label foods as like good or bad, because in the end, you really can fit any food into your meal plan if you want to. They all, obviously, if you eat McDonald's every day, you're not going to feel as good as if you eat whole foods. But just in the end, when it comes to weight loss, that's the mindset that I feel like people get really confused about. Also, just have to remember that healthier foods, so like vegetables, lean proteins, that kind of stuff, it's gonna have more nutrients, it's gonna have more fiber, like it's gonna make your body feel better and function better and feel fuller longer. So obviously it is more sustainable to eat more nutrient dense food. So that means that you're eating more for the number of calories that it is. So if you eat 500 calories worth of lettuce compared to a 500 calories worth of McDonald's, you're going to feel so much more full eating the lettuce compared to the McDonald's. And so obviously when I say that don't label foods good or bad, you still want to try to eat healthy, because you're not going to be able to maintain yourself by just eating high calorie foods that aren't giving you the proper nutrients for you to feel good or to feel full, if that makes sense. So that's enough of that. I'm going to get straight into the video. So what I do to count calories is I use the app MyFitnessPal. It is my absolute lifeline. So I'm going to show you how to set up MyFitnessPal, how to put in your information, and some tips with that. So I'm on the MyFitnessPal website right now. So usually I just use the app on my phone, but I'm using my phone to record this, so I'm on my computer on the website. So first thing you do is you just make an account, and then after you make an account, it'll ask you, this page will come up, it'll ask you a few questions. So it'll ask you your current weight, your height, your goal weight, your gender, your date of birth, and then all of that. After you fill out the top portion, this bottom portion is probably the most important thing that I want to explain. So it asks you how you would describe your normal daily activities. So the options are sedentary, lightly active, active, or very active. And it also asks you how many times a week do you plan on exercising. And then at the bottom here, it says how you want to track your energy, and then what is your goal. This part about exercise is the most important part. I just want to make this so clear, because I think this confused me so much, and so I just want to make it clear. So when it asks you to describe your normal daily activity, so I think a huge problem that people have is trying to guess how many calories you burn in a day. So obviously if you are a college student like me, or you work at a desk job and you spend a lot of time sitting down, studying, working, you work at a computer, just all that stuff, you're obviously not burning a lot of calories throughout the day. And that is way different than if you're a construction worker, or if you work in a factory and you're moving heavy boxes, or depending on what you do for a living, that has a big role. So obviously if you find yourself exercising or having a high activity level while you're at work throughout the whole day for hours at a time, then I would maybe check the box here that it says that you're active or very active, whatever you think. But if not, I found that it's so much more beneficial to just hit sedentary. So sedentary means that you just spend the most of the day sitting in a chair and a desk. It explains it on here. I would just hit that, because I think a lot of people run into the problem of it's really hard, I think, to just guess how many active calories you're burning throughout the day. So say that you say that you're very active, but then certain days you're not. That's going to make a big difference in the long run if that keeps happening. So my safest bet is just to say that you're sedentary. And then the last thing it'll ask is what your goal is. So it will ask you if you want to maintain your weight, whether you want to lose weight, gain weight, whatever it is, then you enter that. Okay, so now it's going to bring you to this page, and this page will tell you the net calories that you should consume a day according to the goal that you entered in. So for mine, this is the net calories that I entered in to just maintain my weight, and it'll give you specifically how many carbs, fat, and protein that you could aim for. I'm not going to even go into that because that's a whole nother thing, but basically the big worry that right now is the number of calories that you should eat a day. Okay, so I want to explain what that number means a little bit more, because I know that also can be very confusing. So the number that I put in is the amount of calories that I could eat per day to maintain my weight while being sedentary. So that's what I put in for my information. So what that means is this: if I were to just sit down all day, not do any exercise, that's how many calories I could eat to maintain my weight. So what that goes by is your RMR. So what your RMR is your resting metabolic rate, and so that's a way to calculate how many calories your body burns off. So what that means, if I were to sit in this chair all day, not move a muscle, that's how many calories I could eat to maintain my weight, because that's how many calories my body is naturally burning off by living. So obviously exercise increases that number, and again, I'll get into that in a little bit, but that's how many calories I would eat to just maintain my weight. And that number is totally different throughout people, so it depends on your height and weight. Other factors go into it too. So that is specifically calculated for me. Okay, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about how to use this app because it's very self-explanatory, but basically what you can do is you can click on these tabs and enter in how much you eat per day, and this app literally will calculate how many calories it is, how many carbs, fat, and protein, and then it'll subtract the number that you have left. So say you start the day with 2,000 calories. Once you eat breakfast, you put in your breakfast, it'll subtract that number and then tell you the number that you have left throughout the rest of the day. Here's the tricky part. Now you're probably thinking, how the heck do I calculate everything that I eat in a day? I don't have time for that. That's too much work. I get it. So I feel like this is a lot of times people give up after doing this for a few days because it gets to be a lot of work. But I want to give you a few tips on how to make things just simple and easy. First of all, I promise you guys, the more you do it, the easier it gets. It gets to be like a second nature and you don't even think about it. So the number one tip that I have is to just measure out your food. That's the easiest and most accurate way. So whether you're having cereal for breakfast or whatever, look at the nutrition facts label, look at the serving size, look at the amount, measure it, and then you can enter it into MyFitnessPal. On MyFitnessPal, it gives you the option to either search the exact food that you eat and then you can put in the serving size and it'll just calculate it for you, or you can press quick add for calories and so you can calculate it yourself and then just add the calories however you want to do it. But like I said, so measuring out your food, another huge thing is meal prepping. So what I'll do on like a Sunday night for an hour, I will take time to, actually honestly not even an hour, probably like a half hour, I will take time to meal prep my food, measure everything out, and then calculate how many calories each meal is. And so for an example, I will have a meal and then I will literally write on a Post-it note how many calories it has. And so that when I eat during the week and I'm like running from one place to another and I'm super busy, I already know exactly how many calories is in it. So I'll literally just type it in. It takes 5 seconds. I'll type it into MyFitnessPal and I'll go on with my day. And obviously, like, you don't have to plan every single thing that you eat every single day, and you don't have to, like, eat the same thing every single day, but I think, like, it helps if you have kind of an idea of, like, what you're gonna eat, and so then you can, like, quickly just look at the nutrition facts label or, like, already know the amount of calories that you are gonna eat. I think that makes it so much quicker and so much faster, and it saves a lot of time in the end. Another big issue, I think, too, sometimes is if you're going out to eat, like, how do you know how many calories it is? So I feel like at this point, most restaurants, I think, have calories written on their menu. If not, you can go online and look it up. But if you're at a restaurant that doesn't have that, honestly, just do your best guess. Like, it is not the end of the world if you're off by a little bit. You don't have to be, like, obsessive about it, but I think just, like, give your best guess and then just work with what you have. The last thing I want to talk about today is exercise. Again, this is another one of those things that can be really confusing and it can be tricky. So I'm just going to explain to you guys what I have felt has helped me to be the most accurate. So what I do is I wear an Apple Watch and I will put it on when I wake up and then I'll take it off before I go to bed. So why I wear an Apple Watch is what it does is it tracks your active calories for the day. So your active calories are additional calories that your body burns off from exercise or just walking or being active. And so like I told you guys before, so again, your RMRs, when you sit down, you're not moving at all throughout the day and your body naturally burns off calories. These are additional calories that your body is burning off. So what I do is I keep track of that number and then I'll add that on top of the calories that my body naturally burns off to maintain my weight, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm just going to explain that a little bit more in detail so I'm not confusing. And also I'm going to explain what you can do if you don't have an Apple Watch or calorie tracker. But first, so again, like I said before, I put my Apple Watch on the first thing in the morning, and then usually I work out right away in the morning. And so I'll track that, the amount of calories that I burn. It really varies every day. I'll switch up my workouts, different types of workouts that I do, so the number of calories is different. And then just depending on what I have going on that day, if I'm going to be walking more and more active, it will tell me how many calories I burn in that specific day. And then towards the end of the day, I'll add that number back on top of the number that you saw before, and then that total number will give me the amount of calories that I can eat in a day to maintain my weight or whatever goal you have. And so that's what I do. That's what I have found to be the most accurate for me. And so obviously not everyone has an Apple Watch, which is 100% totally fine. So if you are someone who doesn't have an Apple Watch, a Fitbit, or a calorie tracker that tracks your active calories, here is another thing that you can do. So again, MyFitnessPal has an app I'm going to show you in a second that you can put in your best estimate of the type of exercise that you do. Okay, so going back to the MyFitnessPal app or website, you can click the exercise tab. So on the exercise tab, it's going to have two options. So either cardio training or strength training. So what you're going to do is right under it, you can click the type of exercise that you did and press add exercise. And then what you can do is you can search. So whether you did biking, walking, running, whatever you did that day, you can search that exercise. Then it's going to bring you to this page. So after you type in the type of cardio exercise that you do, so say I type in running, say I ran today, then you can choose the speed that you want here. So you can choose the pace that you ran at, and then it's going to bring you to this side where it will ask you how long. So say I ran at 10 miles an hour for 10 minutes, then right here it's going to show you the number of calories that you burned during that time, and then you press add exercise. Then that number will then add to your total amount of calories for that day. Okay, so now I'm just going to give you an example of how you would add your strength training. So this is where I think it can be very, very, very confusing. So I'll just show you really quick. So say you did squats today over here, then it's going to give you an option. So it's going to ask you to put in the number of sets, the number of reps, and the number of weights, and then it'll say add exercise. But notice here, it's not going to have a number of calories that you burned. Okay, so notice on here, the only calories that it added was the calories from my cardio exercise. So from the app on MyFitnessPal, it's not adding any calories that you burn during weight training. Okay, so I want to take some time to explain this because this literally confused the crap out of me for so long. I was so confused why it would say that you're not burning any calories while during strength training. So first off, obviously, as you know, doing cardio will burn far more calories there and then than strength training will. But if you notice, if you do have an Apple Watch and you notice that you if you are doing a lifting workout and you put in strength training on your Apple Watch or you put in other, you'll notice that you burn some calories while doing that. And so that's why I think it's far more accurate than using this. And so if you enter in the strength training on MyFitnessPal, it's really hard for them to measure how many calories you're burning because it really just depends on like the person, your heart rate, all that type of stuff. So I think that just adding the strength training of exercise on MyFitnessPal is more just a track for yourself, like what you're doing that day. It doesn't affect your calories. That's why I got an Apple Watch. That's why I have found that keeping an Apple Watch is far more accurate because it'll read your heart rate. And so this video is getting very long and I'm going to start to wrap things up. But basically what I showed you is another option that you can use if you're trying to track your calories burned to add on to your total calories. If you don't have access to an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or a device that can track your active calories burn. But to be 100% totally real with you guys, I just want to explain that the reason I got an Apple Watch was because I felt like it was really hard for me to be accurate. So me personally, like I felt like I started to get into this unhealthy mindset that I had to do like a certain amount of cardio every single day, burn a certain amount of calories from cardio every single day because that was the only thing that MyFitnessPal like accepted for calories burned for exercise, which again, like I said, makes sense because it's really hard to calculate the amount of calories during weight training or types of weight training because it all has to do with intensity and like who the person is and your heart rate during that type of exercise. And so that's why I got an Apple Watch. And for me, by far, I just felt like it is the most accurate thing for me. And I feel like I can do whatever type of workout during that day and not have to worry about making sure I get my cardio in to burn calories. But with that being said, again, you work with what you have. You can make anything work if you don't have access to that. So those are just a few options on tips on how to enter in the amount of calories you burn from exercise, again, on top of that number. So one more thing with tracking your calories on your Apple Watch for exercise and then adding them back on. I know that some people might think like, okay, well, that doesn't really make sense to add on all of your active calories at night before you go to bed, because then you won't know how many calories you can eat throughout the day. And so my biggest advice with that is, after a while, like, you kind of have an idea of how many calories you're gonna burn. I know that I like set a goal for myself every single day, and basically, like, I'm used to the type of workouts I do. I know about how many calories I'm gonna burn, and especially like with my routines through the week, like on some days, if like I'm walking to class a lot, like I know I'll burn a little bit more. So I think that after a while you kind of get like a guess of what you're gonna burn. And so just kind of like taking that into account. Obviously you don't want to, if you burn 800 calories in a day, you're not going to wait until like 10 p.m. and then all of a sudden eat 800 calories. Like, I get that. So I think just like kind of having an estimate throughout the day, and so like planning accordingly to that. Okay guys, that is the end of my video. I hope those tips helped. Again, like I said before, I've probably spent the past like 3 to 4 years just experimenting with all this and experimenting how to count my calories accurately and my exercise. And honestly, I feel like by doing this, what I showed you guys, not only does it make the most sense to me, though I've seen the most change and progress by doing this. So again, like I said, nutrition is not one size fits all. So many people do other things that work for them. And like I said before, I know so many people who don't count their calories and are very against it, which I totally respect. I'm not trying to bash anyone who is like that. This video is more just for people who are struggling and not really seeing change and just want to try something new. So other than that, if anyone has any ideas of videos to make nutrition or fitness related, let me know, and thank you guys for watching.